the end goal, achieving your success. So it's making that first connection and learning communication and communicating well. All of those things go into networking, and that is so critical to not only your career success, but any business success. It's critical to, I think, keeping our kids from bullying. Those kind of connections that are formed can solve so many problems.
Welcome to Mastering the Numbers. I'm your host, Joe Mallo. Excited to talk to my guest today, Jeri Vespoli. She's the founder of Hour of Power Connections. Jeri, thank you very much for taking time out to spend it with me.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. To get this interview started, tell everybody a little bit more about Hour of Power Connections.
Sure. So everybody becomes good at what they do with a lot of practice, right? And since communication is the start of every success, it just makes sense that we practice communication to get really great at it. And if you have ever been to a networking event, you know that sometimes connecting is uncomfortable and communication really matters there. And there aren't many opportunities to both practice connections or practice communication and make a lot of new connections. That's why I developed HOP. It's a live and virtual event solution where everybody in the room gets to meet and kind of practice good communication skills in just 1 hour. So you get to meet more people in less time, and you get to hone those very crucial communication skills that we all need that drive success. And the collaborations that develop out of it also drive success. So that's what Hop networking is all about,
Yeah, I mean,
or
I've
Hop
I've done a lot
connections.
of
Mhm.
yeah, I've done a lot of networking in over the course,
Mhm.
especially over the course of the last few years, but I've never done it in that format before. So I'm excited to hopefully sometime get a
Yeah.
chance to. So what inspired you to start this business?
This business in particular came out of pains that were expressed to me by fellow business professionals and chamber members. I did a lot of work with local chambers, both as a volunteer and member and as a board director and board leader. And I heard feedback from many, many, many business professionals over the years, partly from my business and some from work with the chambers. And people kept saying over and over, they tell us we have to network, but A, I don't really know how to network. And B, there aren't a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of people. I feel like I go to events and meet one or two. And since I kept hearing that, I thought, boy, we should be able to do this better. So
Yeah,
that's what inspired me to start Hour of Power Connections.
and how long has Our Power been up and running?
Oh, for over a decade, but I at first just did it here and there for local chambers, as kind of one-off events, and honed the process over the many years, to tighten it up and make it easier for not only for people to communicate. We honed a good communication style, but also for people who wanted to run the events themselves. I wanted to make sure that it was something that anyone could take the model and run, so that we can make them more frequent and more prevalent in
Okay,
local markets.
so is that how the company has evolved over the last 10 years? I guess
Well,
explain a
I've
little
been
bit
in
about the
business for,
evolution.
yeah, I've been in business for more than 2 decades, and my business started on the premise of collaboration. I had been working with a lot of small businesses to help them share advertising expenses, and it was a very specific market. I was in the oil industry, so I was working with car dealerships and oil changers and major oil brands like Castrol and Kendall and Quaker State and Valvoline,
Yeah.
and it was helping them maximize their ad spend through co-op dollars and helping business partner. And I thought, boy, there are a lot of small businesses with very small budgets, and they can make those budgets really stretch if more of them collaborate. So, my business was born out of a desire to help more small businesses collaborate. And from there, that's started my work with local chambers, because that was also helping small businesses to grow. And that's how the networking events were born. They're also a really great opportunity in the marketing space for businesses to connect and collaborate and grow.
Yeah. No, I like the platform because, when I think about Chamber of Commerce events, a lot of times,
Mhm.
people just walk around and hand out cards and you don't really ever talk to the people again. But this seems much more intentional, about
Yes.
really getting to know people on a better, even if you only have 2 minutes to do it, you spend that
Yeah.
time really getting to understand who they are and how you might be able to help.
Yes. Yeah, with the communication style that we use, we call it a demified value introduction. And it's actually only 30 seconds, Joe. And science, communication science shows us that people only tune in for about 30 seconds. That's our attention span. There was an author who said, boy, if I can't pitch a book in 30 seconds or less, I'm not going to get anywhere. So
Right.
people who have success recognize that you really have to get your message across and express the value to the person you're talking to in 30 seconds or
Yeah.
less. So we developed it for that specific reason. But yes, they do make real connections because they're making their message about the person they're talking to and not about them. So it is a very unique style and it does have science behind it in the way that it
Yeah.
connects with people.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope that people pay attention for more than 30 seconds to my podcast.
Well, you grab
So
them in the first few minutes and
that's
then they
right. That's
listen
right.
more.
That's right. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome over the course of the last 10 years of growing this business?
Oh gosh, most of them have been the economic climate. Sometimes the things that go first with businesses is their marketing budget, and so when the economy starts to go south, that's what gets cut, and I think that's been the biggest challenge. Obviously, resources are always a challenge, so finding and investing in resources is another big challenge. But yeah, I think the biggest thing has been the economy and obviously
Okay.
COVID, that took our events down completely because we couldn't be face to face in person anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did see some networking groups that went to an online or a Zoom format
Hmm.
like we're doing right now. But as
Yeah,
soon as the pandemic was done, they broke apart.
right,
But it wasn't
right.
as what wasn't as easy. So I get that. So is there anything when you think about the evolution of your business? Is there anything that you would have
Hmm.
done differently in the growth of that business? Kind of that hindsight 2020 question.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there are probably a lot of things I would have done differently. Hindsight is always 2020. But one of the biggest things I think is finding collaborators first rather than trying to go to market first. And I encourage other people to always do that. Look for the people who share your market, either work with them in a strategic way or, bring them on as a partner. I probably would have done that when I first started in business 25 years ago, had I known what I know now.
Yeah. So I know you've been busy with this, and
Hmm.
what one of the questions I always like to ask is as business owners we're super busy. There's a million things going on that we're thinking about
Hmm.
constantly. How do you find some semblance of work life integration or work life balance?
Oh
Whatever
gosh,
that means to you.
it's even tougher working from home because the laundry calls and the and the dust stares at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the key is just knowing that it's the reason you're working is to have a life. So I think just having that understanding and realizing that when someone asks you, for instance, when my daughter-in-law calls and says, "Hey, can you pick your granddaughter up?" and I have to stop myself and say, "Yeah, that's why I'm working. That's why I'm working from home. That's why I do this, and I'm in business for
Right.
myself." So say yes more often to the things that you're actually working for, is I guess the way I achieve work-life balance is just
Yeah.
check myself, make sure that I'm saying yes to those things because that's what's
Yeah.
important.
Do you find yourself stepping away? So to go pick up your granddaughter,
Mhm.
you go step away to pick up your granddaughter, then maybe you come back a little bit later and finish up that work. So just to make sure that things get completed.
Oh, sure. I've worked and babysat before. And that's nice too. You have the flexibility. The focus isn't always there. Obviously we work, early mornings, Saturdays, Sundays, whenever you can find a few hours when family doesn't need you. That's a
Yeah.
great time to work. I find 4 a.m. to be a really great time to get up and get some stuff done. I'm not
Oh,
an evening person. I'm a morning person. So
morning person. Yeah,
yeah.
in the morning
Hmm.
it's always easier. Um,
Oh gosh, my brain's much more fresh in the morning.
Absolutely. So what's the most challenging, besides the pandemic and things like that, what's the
Mhm.
most challenging part of this industry, this networking type industry?
I think that it's not a need. It's something that can help grow businesses. It's much like marketing. You have to have it, but businesses don't budget for that first. They budget for hard
Yeah.
costs first, and especially small businesses. And also just the fact that networking has not been recognized as a part of strategic marketing planning in the past. It's something that people say you have to do mostly for your career. I mean, you hear it when you get out of high school, go network. That's how you build your career. But as far as business building, even though businesses know it's a good thing, it's not given the importance that it should be. And especially today with loneliness ever increasing, disconnectedness, I think of networking more as connections. That's why I reframed it as hop connections, because networking in the past has always been something that people think of as relationship building, growing your relationships, but it really isn't. It's all of the things that go into the end goal, achieving your success. So it's making that first connection and learning communication and communicating well. All of those things go into networking, and that is so critical to not only your career success, but any business success. It's critical to, I think, keeping our kids from bullying. Those kind of connections that are formed can solve so many problems. So to me, I think the biggest challenge is it's not given the credit it's due, I guess, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some people approach it wrong as well.
Hmm.
If you're approaching
Sure.
networking just to find a client, I don't know that that's
Yeah.
the right way to do it. I mean, certainly you will find clients networking, but I think what you find, which is more powerful, is relationships and strategic alliances, and that can, instead of getting one client out of it, you can get many, many more by
Hmm.
building those strategic
Absolutely.
relationships. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
what's the biggest differentiator with Hop Connections compared to other maybe like-minded networking type um, events?
Yeah, sure. It has a unique fit and getting in the market, getting back to, yes, networking is not about just making a sale. Networking is about so much more than that. And there's a hole in networking, in that you're given a lot of opportunities to build those relationships. You can get to know people a lot better, for instance, at a chamber lunch, or you can join a referral group and meet week after week and, build relationships that way and get to know people. But where the hole is in those initial connections. And if you don't have connections feeding the potential for relationships, and, you know, it's more than just building relationships for referrals and building relationships for sales. It's learning things. I can learn
Yeah,
about it when I connect with more people. I learn about all kinds of different opportunities, new ways to present a solution, a business solution. I learn that from other people. They have a new take on something. You can learn tips and tools that you can take to your own business. You can find, like you said, potential partners. Um, Making more connections just opens up many, many more opportunities to actually build relationships and get those innovation sparks and uh, form collaborations that could grow your business. So Pop is different in that it allows that connection in a shorter time frame. So for people
Yeah,
who, all of us, basically, who don't have a lot of time, you can make a lot more connections in a lot less time and
yeah.
start feeding that relationship building circle that surrounds your success.
I like that. I think it's so critical for small business owners to spend time networking and building relationships, whether it's just in the
Hmm.
community, or whether it's throughout the entire state. It doesn't
Yes.
doesn't matter. So,
Yeah.
where do you see Hop Connections in the next 12 to 36 months? Where do you see it going?
Hopefully everywhere. It's something that I'd love to see in every local community, obviously for business owners to have more opportunities to connect, but also churches to build their connections among their congregation and help mitigate loneliness. I'd like to see it I see it in corporations. We've already done some trial events and had some success with corporations. Reducing the silent quitting phenomenon and helping employees get more engaged and making them happier in their jobs because they meet more of the people they work with. And I'd love to see it, and I'm working on getting it into schools where I think it can really benefit kids because if kids can connect and get out of their phones and connect face to face more, I truly believe that that will help mitigate some of the bullying that's increasing these days. Help build some empathy skills and communication skills for kids, which we don't teach them young enough either.
I agree. We don't. Just through my experience, having a teenager, talking to kids from all different backgrounds, that end up at my house,
Mhm.
hanging out. Some of them they can communicate very, very well with adults. They stare you
Mhm.
in the eye. They shake your hand. But there's a lot that don't have that skill set. They're not comfortable
Right.
talking to people that they're not familiar with. And so I
Hmm.
agree. It could be a powerful tool in the schools. Because that's a
Absolutely.
learned trait. Networking,
Oh,
talking to
sure.
people you don't know, it's learned.
Yeah, connecting with people is something that and is something that everyone needs throughout your life, and especially to build any kind of success throughout your life, you need communication skills and you need to
Absolutely.
be connected with people. And why not start as young as we possibly can, helping kids
So,
understand that. Mhm.
absolutely. It can only help. I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
a couple final questions.
Sure.
What's some of the best business advice anybody's given you over the years?
Yeah, I think probably the thing that stuck the most is um and this comes mainly from business gurus that I've heard over the years, and that is collaborate. I mean, that is the core of my business. It's collaborate with other people, find ways to share resources because resources are without the right resources, your business is not going to go anywhere. And if you
Yeah,
share, you're getting much more for much less. So I think that's the thing that stuck with me the most. And that came from many, many sources
yeah, yeah.
over
I
the
like that
years.
one. I
Yeah,
collaborate on a lot. I get a lot more done when I collaborate. I get a lot less done when I just try to do it all on my own. That's for sure.
absolutely.
Um,
Yep.
so let's say you run into someone who's started a business. They've been up and running for a few years. Maybe they're struggling. They're stressed out. What type of advice would you give them?
I think, that's a tough one, but yeah, for any business owner, really, I think the advice I would give them is remember that you have value and go back to why are you doing this? Remember why you're doing what you're doing. Most business owners are doing what they are doing because they solve a problem for someone. So just kind of remind yourself that, hey, no matter what the struggle is, there's a reason you're doing this. And there are probably tens of thousands, if not tens of millions of people who can use your solution. It's just figuring out how to achieve that balance of finding them, helping them. And once you do, things start to tick. So, and I've found that over the years that, it's funny that once people start really recognizing the value of a business, it feeds itself. So just know that. And as long as they have value and they know their value, they could get back to that core and start really thinking about how they're helping people. And that keeps people going, I think.
I like that advice. So last question, I
Hmm.
promise.
Yeah.
When you decide to retire or sell your business or we're no longer on this earth, where do you see your legacy?
Well, I really hope that there will be enough brand awareness. I've been telling people I'd like Hop to be to connecting what Pop Tarts are to toaster pastries. I'd like there to be enough brand awareness and there to be enough ease in these events that they continue and are prevalent and are a recognized brand that people go to for staying connected and learning and practicing communication.
Listen, I really appreciate you taking some time once again
Thanks.
to spend it with me. I learned a lot. I hope I get a chance to be a part of one of these events. Keep me informed. Um,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
so if anybody out
Sure.
there wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
Probably my website has all of the contact information and it is at hopconnections.com.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure that that is listed on the podcast as well for easy
Great.
access.
Thanks.
Um, Once again, I want to thank everybody out there listening. And Jerry, I want to thank you. But I also want to do a very, very quick shout out to my marketing team at Check Off Your Lists. Alyssa and Lisa, they're the reason that this podcast gets released and looks good. So thank you there. And everybody out there, thank you for taking a part. We'll catch you on the next episode of Mastering the Numbers. Take care, Jerry.
Thanks, Joe.
All
You
right.
too.
See you. You've just tuned into another episode of Mastering the Numbers. We hope you found valuable insight to boost your financial success. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Keep pushing forward, and thanks for listening.